Good morning, you beautiful pirates! We're back for another chapter in Dolphins at Daybreak with Jack and Annie and their adventures. So, boys and girls, today when we're done with our story, okay, I just want you guys to have a conversation and talk with your moms and dads about your very favorite part. What part of that chapter did you like the most? Use some describing words and tell your moms and dads with great complete sentences. All right, guys. So, chapter 9. Ouch is the title. The sun shone on the ocean. It sparkled like a diamond. Jack felt safe now. His dolphin was taking good care of him. The dolphins slowed down as they neared the reef. Jack lowered his feet and he felt the bumpy coral. He let go of his dolphin's fin and stood up in the water. Annie stood up too. Then she threw her arms around her dolphin and gave her a big hug. "Thank you, Suki," she cried, and she kissed the dolphin's nose. Suki tossed her head back and clicked at Annie. "Kiss Sam now," Annie said to Jack. "You're nuts," said Jack. But Sam nuzzled Jack's head. Then he put his flippers around Jack's neck. But Jack couldn't resist. He threw his arms around the dolphin and gave him a quick kiss. Sam nodded and made the clicking sound like laughter. Then he turned to Suki. The two dolphins chattered at each other for a moment. They nodded at Jack and Annie and swam gracefully away. "Bye, Suki! Bye, Sam!" Annie shouted. "Thanks, guys!" shouted Jack. The dolphins leapt high into the air, and they dove back into the water with a splash. Jack and Annie laughed. "I wish we could swim like that," said Jack. Jack and Annie watched the dolphins as they disappeared. "I miss them already," Annie said softly. "Me too," said Jack. He sat down in the shallow water. "I'm really tired," he said. Annie sat beside him. "You know what? Me too," said Annie. The warm water lapped around their shorts and their t-shirts. Jack pulled off his pack. He took out his glasses and put them on. They were blurry with water. "Guess what?" said Annie. "What?" said Jack. "I saw the shark when we were swimming," Annie said, "but I didn't tell you. I wanted you to stay calm." Jack stared back at her. "I saw it too. I just swam faster so you would swim faster." "And I swam faster so you would swim faster," said Annie. "I guess we swam double fast then," Jack said. He shook his head with wonder. "What now?" said Annie. "We go home, I guess," said Jack. "But we haven't solved Morgan's riddle yet," said Annie. Jack sighed. He pulled out his notebook out of his pack. It was soaked. He pulled out the ocean book. It was soaked too. "We've failed," he said. "My research is all wet. We'll never be master librarians now." Jack put everything away. "Let's go," he said sadly. He stood up and they started across the pink reef towards the treehouse. Annie followed him. "Ouch!" said Annie. "What's wrong?" Jack looked back. "I stepped on something." Annie bent down to rub her foot. "What?" said Jack. "A shell?" "Yeah, this." She picked up a large gray shell. "Boy, it's rough. Rough and gray as a rock." "And plain as plain can be?" whispered Jack. They had found the answer. The shell looked like a clamshell, only bigger and with more ridges. "How could this ugly shell be the answer to the riddle?" said Annie. "What about the part that says, 'There's great beauty in me'?" "Wait. Research," said Jack. He opened the soaked ocean book. The pages were stuck together, but he was able to turn a few. He found a picture of the gray shell. He read, "Divers search for oysters in deep water, but sometimes oysters wash up on the reefs or beaches. Inside some oysters, you can find a pearl. The pearl's natural beauty is a treasure." "It must have a pearl inside," said Jack. Annie peered into the crack between the two halves of the shell. I can't see anything," he said. "How does a pearl get in there anyways?" Jack read aloud from the wet pages. "Sometimes a grain of sand will get between the oyster's shell and its skin. This irritates the oyster, so it makes a pearl material to surround the grain of sand. In this way, over a few years, a pearl is formed." "I can't tell if there's a pearl in there or not," said Annie. "Maybe we should bang it against a rock," said Jack. "Now, that would really irritate the oyster," said Annie. "I know, it would." "Maybe we should just leave it alone," said Annie. She gently put the oyster back in the water. But how will we know if the oyster is the right answer to the riddle, said Jack. Morgan said, we will know, said Annie. Come on. Jack pushed his glasses into place. Then he and Annie picked up their shoes and their socks. They climbed through the window of the treehouse. Morgan's scroll was lying on the floor. It was open. Look, said Annie. She and Jack stared at the scroll. The riddle had faded away. In its place was one shimmering silver word. Oyster. Morgan's magic, whispered Annie. Jack let out a huge sigh. We got it right, he said. And here's that Pennsylvania book, said Annie. Let's go home. She opened the book. She pointed to the picture of Frog Creek Woods. I wish we could go there, she said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. The wind blew harder and harder. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. And that's the end of the chapter. So, boys and girls, our last chapter in our story is tomorrow. So, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoyed our story, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Adios.